What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to Gator Games Fan TV. How are we all getting on? How is the form? So in this video, we're going to be doing a hurling power rankings. The 36 best teams in hurling right now is going to be this video. Yes, that's right. We are doing a hurling power rankings of 36 teams. You probably didn't even know there was 36 teams that actually played hurling, but they're all not counties, so I don't want to offend anyone because some of these are actually regions or areas or whatever the fuck they call it in the UK. I really don't know, to be honest with you, but hurling power rankings is here. Look, we did a football power rankings a couple of weeks ago. That video went down really well. A couple of people were asking to do hurling power rankings. So I said, you know what? Let's do a hurling power rankings. Now, I am going to be honest. I do have something to confess. From the counties of 36 right up until the Joe McDonagh Cup, there's no information on. We don't really discuss them. I have ranked them and I have put them in an order, but yeah, I don't really know, to be honest with you. Like below, I would say the Joe McDonagh, my knowledge of hurling. Some would say my knowledge of hurling is already quite bad, but when it goes below the Joe McDonagh into the Christy Ring and the Laois Mar, that's when things get a little bit bad. I mean, my Christy Ring knowledge isn't terrible, but certainly below that, it's absolutely awful. So, yeah, there's a lot of counties on here that we're not going to discuss. We have ranked them, though, and when we get up to the Christy Ring winners and the Joe McDonagh Cup, that's when we're going to start discussing the counties in a little bit more detail. So anyone who's new to the channel, if you could subscribe and hit the like button, it would be very much appreciated. It helps the channel grow. We drop a number of videos on here. I did a football power rankings a couple of weeks ago, preview shows, reviews, all that stuff. So if anyone could subscribe, that would be absolutely brilliant. And yeah, let's get into it. Right, so as I was saying, from 36 up until 18, there isn't really much details on. So we're just going to go through them and you'll see some of them on the screen. So 36 is Warwickshire, 35 is Lancashire, 34 is Leitrim, 33 is Longford, 32 Monaghan, 31 is Cavan, 30 is Fermanagh, 29 is New York. Just on New York, maybe a little bit controversial, wasn't it, that they got invited into the Laois Mar and then won it very, very comfortably. Interesting to see what they'll do with the New York hurlers. I'm very happy to see them in the championship, and I think it's great for hurling in New York. But yeah, what way do you actually integrate them in? Because just inviting them into the semi-final, probably a little bit unfair on those other counties. But anyway, 28th is Louth, 27 Sligo, 26 is Armagh, 25th is Mayo, 24 is Tyrone, 23 is Roscommon, 22 is Meath, 21st is Donegal, 20th is Wicklow, 19th is Derry, and then that moves us on to the top 18, where we'll be discussing these in a little bit further detail. In terms of that ranking, by the way, I have gone off of the lower tier competition. So, for example, the teams that won certain competitions will obviously be higher than others. So, like the Laois Mar champions are going to be a little bit higher than the teams who got relegated from the Nicky Rackard and vice versa. But anyway, let's get into number 18, which is Kerry. They got relegated from the Joe McDonagh. They actually beat Kildare in the opening game, but then lost every other game. I don't know if many people seen that tweet from that Kerry hurling fan who basically tweeted out like slagging the Kildare hurlers after they beat them, and then only for Kerry to lose every game and get relegated. I think they actually beat Westmeath, bizarrely enough, but Kildare then won the Joe McDonagh. Absolutely mad. But look, for Kerry, it just has been a regression. I think they have been punching above their weight. That's one thing I would say about Kerry hurling over the last couple of years. And look, going into the Christy Ring, they'll be favourites. And to get another day out in Croke Park, I think will very much suit the Kerry hurlers. 17, London. London, the Christy Ring Cup champions. What a story, obviously, it was for them, and what a massive win it was for London versus Derry. And again, much like New York, it's great to see hurling developing in these counties, and it'd be great to see how London actually do in the Joe McDonagh Cup next season. David Devine, the best player there, 130 across 5 games, but Jack Morrissey, who scored 411, and Conor O'Carroll scored 4-8 in 4 games as well. So 3 players who've all very much impressed, and it's great to see London hurling very much going well at the moment. In 16th, we've got Down, and it's been an interesting season for Down. They didn't get into the Joe McDonagh Cup final, didn't get relegated, kind of finished around mid-table as they have done over the last couple of years. They are improving under Ronan Sheehan, that must be said, especially with recent league form as well. Paul Sheehan, very impressive, 28 points across 5 games. And Pierce Og-McCrickard has been a very impressive player as well. He scored 114 in 5 games. So Down hurling is improving. They're another county that you kind of look at and think it'd be great to see them kind of rise up. And it'd be very interesting to see the battle between them and Antrim next year in the Joe McDonagh. Now that Antrim are in the Joe McDonagh, a bit of a rivalry obviously there as well. So Down improving, but in 16th. In 15th, we've got Westmeath. So 2 wins and 3 defeats in the Joe McDonagh this year for Westmeath. Saoirse Buffon is since retired as well, which not retired, or left his Paul as Westmeath manager. It just hasn't really worked for Westmeath. They're probably reliant on the same couple of players as they have been over the last couple of years, the likes of Killian Doyle, who scored 146 in the Joe McDonagh. And they just haven't really recovered ever since they got relegated from Leinster, which is a little bit disappointing. I think we all remember that big win versus Wexford, and we all felt that, Westmeath Hurling was alive and well after that. But yeah, Westmeath in 15th. In 14th, we've got Carlow. Unlucky, or have they not kicked on? They were clear favourites by many people to win the Joe McDonagh. And in the end, they didn't even get to a final. They, let themselves down probably with that defeat to Kildare in the round robin. It's an interesting one. Like, they had some very good performances in the Leinster Championship last season. And I've said before, they really should expand the Leinster Hurling Championship out, because I think Carlow have proved that they can be competitive if you put them in there. And whatever way you structure the Leinster Hurling Championship, I think the likes of Carlow, Westmeath, Laois, just put them in there, in my opinion. Make it a round robin. I think it would make the Leinster Championship brilliant. But look, Marty Kavanagh, as always, very, very impressive. He scored 443 in 5 games. So very, very impressive scores from Marty Kavanagh. And Carlow actually as well were the highest scorers in the Joe McDonagh. So maybe a little bit unlucky that they didn't get to a final, and maybe even win it as well. In 13th, we've got Laois, back-to-back Joe McDonagh defeats for the Laois hurlers. It must be a bit demoralising around Laois hurling right now to have lost back-to-back finals and everything else that's gone with it. Maybe some players potentially going to step away next year as well. Tomas Keys was very impressive, scored 143, and James Duggan scored 8 goals and 6 points as well. But I remember James Duggan sort of lighting things up at underage. Great to see him now in the Laois panel. And hopefully for Laois, they can keep some of these players around and they can be in the mix again next year, because they do have some phenomenal hurlers in the county. In 12th, we've got Antrim. So a disappointing year, it must be said, for Antrim, getting relegated from Leinster, losing every game. Has the Davy Fitz experiment really worked? It's hard to know. I mean, Leinster, like, it is competitive. You'd look at it and think maybe the only games they could have won was maybe you're kind of looking at it and thinking Offaly maybe, but Offaly have improved as well. So yeah, look, I mean, James McNaughton, very impressive, 235 from him. Interesting though for any Antrim fans who are watching as well. Like, do let me know, does Davy Fitz stick around going into next season? I think if he sticks around, I think he can win that Joe McDonagh, and I think he can get Antrim back up. But whether he can push them on beyond that, it's hard to know. And if he stopped complaining about referees and everything else, it probably would help. But Antrim 11th. I said Antrim 11th. That was a mistake. It's Kildare actually in 11th. Antrim are in 12th. What a year for Kildare hurling. What a year for Brian Dowell. And one of these stories of the year, in my opinion. Absolutely extraordinary stuff from Kildare. Yes, they were hammered by Dublin very recently in the preliminary round kind of qualifier between the Joe McDonagh champions and the third place Leinster team, which was Dublin. But look, Kildare winning the Joe McDonagh, like, what a story. To come back after that opening day defeat to Kerry, absolutely outstanding. David Qualter has been outstanding. He scored 241 in 5 games, and Jack Sheridan, very good as well. Kildare hurling is absolutely on the rise. They are onto something there. You look at the rise in Naas as well. So Kildare hurling, keep an eye on them over the next couple of years, because their race is far from ran. In 10th, we've got Offaly. So Offaly, look, they are progressing. It's hard to know what Offaly. I think they'll be happy with this year. Look, ultimately avoiding relegation in Leinster. You look at Brian Duignan, very impressive, scoring 237 in 5 games. Adam Screeney's obviously been in and out at times with injuries. Look, Offaly are improving. They're a young team. I think the main thing for them this year was to stay in Leinster, having won the Joe McDonagh last year. And look, you give them a good chance of staying up next year. But the question is, can they kick on even further? Like, you look at Wexford, who are on the decline, in my opinion. Dublin are a big county. There's a lot of great hurlers in Dublin, and you'd always expect them to be improving and everything else. But maybe Offaly can leapfrog them in the next couple of years. Galway haven't been looking particularly brilliant as well. So be curious to see this Offaly team in the next few years. In 9th, we've got Wexford, still very reliant on Lee Chin, in my opinion. He scored 356 in 5 Leinster games. He was actually the top scorer in Leinster. He's a phenomenal hurler. Like, he's one of the best in the country, in my opinion. But outside of him, they just can't really seem to get enough. The team is chopping and changing at times, and it just hasn't really worked for Wexford in the last couple of years, in particular since Davy Fitz has left. And I do worry a little bit about them. Underage doesn't look so strong, and I think there are some counties, in my opinion, that are improving. And I do possibly think a Wexford relegation in the Leinster Hurling Championship is possible over the next couple of years. In 8th, we've got Dublin. Dublin standing still, you would say. Dublin are in one of these weird positions in the Leinster Championship over the last couple of years where too good to get relegated, not good enough to win it. Always probably going to get to the quarterfinals of the All-Ireland series and then lose to the team in Munster, which will probably happen this weekend when we play Limerick. Sean Curry's been excellent. He scored 444 in 5 games. Keane O'Sullivan and Brian Hayes Ronan Hayes were very impressive. Brian Hayes is there as well. Ronan Hayes in particular, though, very impressive the last day versus Kildare. Look, as I said in my preview show, I don't give us a chance at all versus Limerick this weekend. And look, there is some good hurlers in Dublin. The club scene is very strong. I just hope we can improve and maybe make that step up over the next couple of years. But for now, standing still, 8th. In 7th, we've got Galway. Look, I could learn to eat my words massively with this one, given the fact that they're playing Tipperary this weekend. And look, Galway in 7th, it is an improvement from last year. They are getting better. And I do think Micheál Donoghue is getting more of a tune out of Galway. I just don't think they're quite there just yet, and they are falling into the same old traps. I think, much like Wexford being very reliant on Lee Chin, I think Galway are very reliant on Cathal Mannion. He scored 254 in 5 games this year. I think Conor Whelan's a little bit out of form as well. They just seem very one-dimensional at times. Like it's a bit of hit and hope into that full forward line without really any substance to it. But look, Micheál Donoghue is a good coach. We know that from his previous time at Galway. I think he did a decent job at Dublin as well. So maybe a year or two soon before we see Galway kick on. But Galway 7th. In 6th, we've got Clare. Look, they still are the All-Ireland champions. And I know, obviously, they went out in the Munster round robin. Look, for Clare to win the All-Ireland last year was absolutely phenomenal, incredible. And to go and, like, defend that, it was always going to be tough. And I think one poignant thing about Clare this year, the points they took off were Limerick and Cork, the 2 best teams in the country, many people would say. I just don't think there wasn't really the motivation there, the want there. It's kind of hard to know with Clare. They've obviously had injuries, players kind of coming in and out. Mark Rogers, very phenomenal with 224 across 4 games. And look, the Munster Hurling Championship, it is at the highest standard, in my opinion. Not a surprise that 5 Munster teams make up the top 6 in this power rankings, in my opinion. But yeah, Mark Rogers has been very, very good. And look, Clare, they'll be back in the mix next year. In 5th, we've gone for Waterford. Look, it is another unusual one with Waterford going out in the Munster Hurling Championship, but they are improving under Peter Queally. Stephen Bennett's been phenomenal this year. 4 goals, 33 points in 5 games. He's been absolutely outstanding. And Waterford are getting better. And when you look at some of their performances, like against Clare, they were very, very impressive that day. A little bit unlucky at times versus Limerick. They've had some good moments, Waterford, this year. And I think they are a very good side. Even against Cork as well, I thought they showed some impressive signs. It's just the standard in Munster is so high. And it's just, if Waterford were in Leinster, in my opinion, they'd get to a final. They'd probably even win it. So it's just the standards in Munster, but still, in my opinion, to be the 5th best team in the country is still quite impressive. So in 4th, we've got Tipperary. There has been serious improvement with Tipperary this year. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Liam Cahill is getting a tune out of this Tip side. Darren McCarthy's been very impressive, 27 points this year. Jason Ford with 19 as well. And Tipperary are getting better, and it's hard to know how far Liam Cahill can take this team. They do still look a good bit off the likes of Limerick and Cork. And look, maybe if they were playing Kilkenny in an All-Ireland semi-final, they would fancy themselves to maybe get to an All-Ireland final. But Liam Cahill is improving them. And look, who knows? Against Cork, look, if they can beat Galway, first of all, it must be said, against Cork in a semi-final, like, I've got a sneaky feeling they could really put it up to Cork in that game in Croke Park. I would still expect Cork to win, but Tipperary, like, they could put up a bit of a fight there. In 3rd, we've got Kilkenny. Kilkenny, in my opinion, are very underrated. A lot of people are just writing Kilkenny off, and I don't really understand or get it, in all honesty. Is it because they're not as good as the Kilkenny team from 10, 15 years ago? Look, they're not the best team in the country anymore, and there is, in my opinion, 2 teams that are better than them, and you could argue there's a couple of teams in Munster who would fancy their chances against them on any given day. But when you look at some of the players that Kilkenny have in TJ Reid and Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, John Donnelly, Hugh Lawler at the back, like, they're a very, very good side. And I think they can beat anyone on any given day. Maybe not Limerick or Cork, but anyone else they certainly can. So Kilkenny are a very, very good side. They shouldn't be slept on, and I have them in 3rd. And then we have the top 2, and it's no surprises who the top 2 are between Limerick and Cork. And look, there's very, very little to split them. I think we saw that in the Munster final with Cork winning on penalties. Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if Limerick and Cork even go to a replay this year, with the fact that there are replays in All-Ireland finals. I would not be surprised by that in the slightest, that we, not only have one more game between Limerick and Cork, potentially even a further one as well. I think there's very, very little between both of these two counties. But I've got Limerick in second and Cork in first, mainly because of the fact that Cork did win that Munster Championship, and the fact that Cork did beat Limerick in two very decisive games last season, in particular that All-Ireland semi-final. So, look, Limerick are very, very strong. They still have another gear and another level to go up on, in my opinion, which is what makes them very, very dangerous. Adam English has been one of their best players this year, scoring 2-8. Tom Morrissey's been very impressive with 16 points as well. And we know at the talent levels, like Cian Lynch was very, very quiet in that Munster final. I would be surprised if you see him as quiet in an All-Ireland final, should it be Limerick and Cork. And Limerick, when they get going in Croke Park, when they're at their flying best, there's very, very little teams to stop them. But maybe Cork are the only team that can beat them. And looking at Cork, look, it's just the sheer depth and talent that they have. I've got them in first, and look, it's no surprise there. Pat Horgan has been their top scorer with 3 goals and 35 points this year. But it's the sheer talent of Dara Fitzgibbon, of Brian Hayes, Shane Barrett, Alan Connolly. They've a host of options that they can bring off the bench. You saw Jeremy Healy, who looked very good the last day as well. And it's that explosiveness, it's that dynamism of this Cork side that when they're running at you, they're very, very hard to stop, especially with the fans on side as well. So Cork, for me, are still number one. They still edge Limerick in these power rankings, but do let me know yours in the comments. Am I right in having Cork in first? As I said before, I think they narrowly edge it over Limerick right now. But look, ultimately, it will go down to that All-Ireland final in a couple of weeks' time, which I do think will be Limerick and Cork. But anyway, that's going to be the Hurling Power Rankings. Do let me know in the comments down below what would be your Hurling Power Rankings. Do let me know as well, even for the other counties that we didn't really get to discuss, and regions in the UK that we didn't get to discuss too much. Let me know, is it the right order? Would you swap them around? Let me know your top 10 as well. And for anyone who is tuning in, hit the like button and subscribe if you could. It helps the channel grow. We'll be back during the weekend for some reactions to some of the various different games that are taking place. And until the next one, speak to us all later.